a very warm welcome to So This is Thailand. I'm Valerie Mackenzie, Sawadee Ka.
I'm Johan Wimonchalau, Swadee Krap.
And I'm Tapani Manawet, Swadee Ka.
Now I understand it's very unusual that men want to talk about shopping malls, but Johan tells us today he wants to talk about shopping malls.
Well, indeed I do, and the reason is you can't go anywhere without seeing a new one being put up. And my question is, there can't possibly be that many customers support all these shopping malls. There's almost like a shopping mall for every 7-Eleven out there.
I feel that way about condos right now, actually.
It's true, isn't it? Because the shopping malls that are around, they have the very large shopping malls, and then they have the ones that they call the boutique, then they have the malls, and now they have another group which is called the home type shopping. But how do they all survive? I mean, you go into Gason, for example. It's the very top end, it's very expensive. You don't see anyone in the shops. And it's like the rental must be high. So what do? Do they get one by a month? Then you go into CM Paragon, it's absolutely packed in the food halls, in the areas that is medium priced. You go up to the top end again, maybe it's one customer a month. And then there's shopping mall on the shopping mall. So how do they actually, the people that are actually renting the space with the product, how do they really make a living? Or do they change so often?
I do have to say that I quite like the lifestyle malls that are coming up, which are kind of more open air and, with little restaurants and boutique-y kind of shops, and a little bit more individual and not so, that inside they all look the same. And you go in and you spend a day there and then you come out and it's nighttime and like the whole day is gone and you don't know what happened. So the lifestyle ones are a little bit better.
They are
It's
actually.
green.
And didn't they pass a law where they're prohibited from building those mega malls now? They're only restricted to I believe those 3 stories like you mentioned, the lifestyle malls.
Oh, is that so?
I believe, remember that, which is why if you look where like Central Chitlom is, they wanted to build a much larger mall there, but they had to kind of tone it down.
So the reality is they're not going up anymore, they're going
Going
out.
out.
So it's the same thing. Well, apart from shopping malls and the fact we've got too many, perhaps, what's the talk of the town?
Right, the first talk of the town is about the auto tax, which is going to be introduced. We're trying to make more of a green economy, and automakers, as you know, have sold about 1 million vehicles, 1 million more cars hitting the streets of Bangkok. Now, the way that they want to guarantee lower pollution is that they want to tax with new rates on the CO2 emissions of each model. So depending on the model of the car, not depending on the size of engines anymore. Now, vehicles with low emissions will of course pay lower taxes, and vehicles with higher emissions pay more. So this all seems to make sense. The government recently announced a 0% excise tax rate as well for electric motorcycles, but so far this hasn't generated very much public support, and it's being said that they need to introduce stations where the batteries of these electric motorcycles can be charged, otherwise the tax incentive isn't going to work.
Well, it's just like you had when you had the huge push to get natural gas vehicles in here. It's great to have these cars which are much more fuel efficient and environmentally friendly, but you have to have those supporting stations so people can go from one point to the next without dying on the road.
Well, hopefully they'll do that, but I think the concept is good. Let's see what happens after this.
Coming up next?
Coming up next is about rights activists who have since the AEC, the formation of the ASEAN Economic Community, which is, of course, as you know, going to be introduced in 2015, they are now discussing the repercussions on human rights and democracy in the region. Now, the ASEAN Intergovernmental Commission on Human Rights, or ACHR, said that there's no mention of issues like human rights in the blueprint, and of course, when the AEC is introduced, there will be free flow of human resources, of course, low-skilled labor as well, moving from country to country, and their rights are not guaranteed in writing. So they may not enjoy the same treatment and rights as everybody else. They said that there might be more room for discrimination, and also with mega dams and projects which are in joint cooperation between the affected countries, the local community will also be deeply impacted. Now, in the standings, the Philippines is the most free of all the countries joining the AEC. Indonesia may be number 2, and Thailand is coming in 3rd. So that's where we stand.
I think that the human rights issue is going to go more on the side of the labourers, the blue collar workers, perhaps,
Yes.
than any other level. But I still think that when we look at the members of the AEC, the ASEAN Economic Community, I don't see that a lot of those people who don't want to work in the construction industry, don't want to work in security, cleaning, all those sorts of jobs, I don't know that they're going to come here. I think we're still going to have a gap. I think that more we're likely to get those wanting to come from South Asia, and of course that's not a possibility at this time. So human rights are fine, and I think we have to look after the people that are coming in, but I still think that the bigger issue is we're not going to get the workers that we need. I don't think people will move for the reason of it's all open now, because our salaries aren't that much greater than some of the others.
And with so much demand as you will expect in the AEC opening up all these new projects, these cross cooperation things going on, I think they're really going to be almost like a brain drain, or not a brain drain, but as you mentioned, not enough people in those specific areas. And
there'll be only a brain drain if one of the countries actually pays a lot more for a specific industry. If the IT industry, for example, is going to, Singapore is going to be the real hub, and there's going to be a big flow of people into Singapore, salaries will be high. We will have a brain drain, but that, I think, will come in time.
Well, moving right along, September does mark the month of the World Suicide Prevention Day. And there's actually some shocking, well, not shocking, but rather surprising statistics for suicides here in Thailand. Now, about 4,000 per 100,000 people in the country commit suicide, or about 1 every 2 hours. That is very surprising. What is even more surprising, though, is according to the 2011 statistics from the Department of Mental Health here in Thailand, the age group with the highest rates are actually 80 to 84. The elderly, which is very surprising. You would think that those much younger, who have, those pressures from whether it's jobs or relationships or school, as you find, a lot of students, but in fact, it's the older.
I didn't think we had that many people in Thailand that lived to that ripe old age, to be perfectly honest with you. Is it because they're ill and so they're looking for a way out, or does it explain that?
It does not. Unfortunately, the statistics, the research didn't go far into looking at all the causes, but it's something which is alarming when you're looking at an aging population, not just in Thailand, but in the world around. It's something that really should be looked into and addressed.
Oh, that's amazing, huh?
And rounding out the day, I'm sure a lot of you have heard about the white lies. Looks to be something about Thai morals. Now, a lot of people are always talking about morality and what's right and what's not right, and expecting that Thailand, being a predominantly Buddhist country, should have great morals. But in fact, there's some out there saying that domestically, Thais are not following the Buddhist teachings. Now, it does say that you're not supposed to steal, you're not supposed to kill, commit adultery, not lie, or consume alcohol. Yet more often we're finding that old and young, especially the young, are bucking these morality trends.
I know that a research that came out on alcohol consumption ranked Thailand as one of the top 10 whiskey consumers, and very much prone to binge drinking in this country. And that definitely flies in the face of one of the 5 Buddhist teachings or commandments. How do you say? Yeah,
exactly.
The Buddhist teachings goes against that, definitely.
I think that, like I've said many times, and I'll continue to say, we follow too much on the movies that we get here. We also follow too much on drama. We follow too much on the sexual side. We follow too much on having a gun and fighting. And it's not just here in Thailand, it's a worldwide problem. But nonetheless, we would have hoped that Buddhism would have actually helped us through all this. It appears that it's not doing a lot for us at the moment, only with a particular group. But hopefully, we'll all see the way that we should go forward and take note of how we're actually not living up to the standards we should be living at.
Oh, absolutely. And as you mentioned, it's not just a problem here in Thailand. You look anywhere in the world, the young generation, because they're exposed to so much, especially in the media, TV, movies, they really get insensitized to some of the things that, in our generation, we were taught as young that that's not good, it's bad behavior, it's bad for you as well.
Well, moving right along, not some great news today, but some facts nonetheless, and I think the auto tax story on the green economy was good. Let's hope it comes in. We had the opportunity to go out and interview the producer, director of a musical called Raya. Kun Samtao, the maestro, Sujari Kun, in fact, is behind this particular musical. His mother, in fact, wrote the movie, or as it was a soap actually on television, which was very special. It's already sold out on the first 2 days, so stay tuned. We'll come back and we'll tell you all about this very special musical, Raya. Don't go away.